Hi everybody and welcome to the Endless Celts Podcast. Hope everybody's listening. Joined by two show regulars, Ross and William. How are yous?
Very well,
right, mate. Very well.
And also, as
start
you
of the
can
holidays.
see, and as you can see, the Bhoycie Bus is pulled up to the Endless Celts Podcast. How are you, Russell, boys?
Very well, my man. Brilliant to be here. Loving it, mate.
Yeah.
Loving it.
Brilliant to have you on. You're an idiot.
Five and drive, mate.
I do want to, obviously, the listeners and viewers and people who watch and stuff, I want to wish you all Merry Christmas and things. This is our last podcast before the Christmas period. But also, is it a bit of a bah humbug kind of podcast after what was seen last night in terms of the result of Paisley 0-8 against St Mirren? Pretty dull game and all the first. But I'll come to yourself, Russell, first. We always do like a brief summary. How did you feel about it?
In terms of last night, I think, it's... at the end of the day, people could talk about players missing, and there was players missing for us. Not to the extent a team tried to call a postponement of the match. Not once, twice. That's how depleted the St Mirren squad was. So the hard done by story doesn't wash through me. I felt plan A didn't work, so we tried plan A again. And I think sometimes it's a crazy thing because whilst I want this loving for Ange to occur because I think it's actually united the support, I think that's a really healthy thing for Celtic. I also think it's created this invincibility cloak that he wears where you can't just... if you say any criticism about the manager now, you're basically told, look at the bigger picture, look what he inherited. I'm like, well, why can't we look at a football match, in isolation? Because when we win certain games, the praise is all there. And when we drop points, such as what we did last night, it's crucial points as well. I just think it's fair to look at it from a prism of, well, can we analyse what the manager's performance was in a fair way? And then, of course, the bigger picture debate can be a separate thing. But in the meantime, in the space of 90 minutes, 95 minutes, 97 minutes, however many minutes we want the game to go on for, we can look at it and go, do you know what? He could have done this, he could have done that, without a backlash from your own fan base, basically, who seem to think it's over the top. And I felt last night was a wee bit, the word I would use is deflating. And the reason I say that is because the League Cup win was such a high. It was such a high, it almost felt for me, after the League Cup, like the St Mirren game will take care of itself, even if we've only got as many, was it 13 first team players they had? Yep. Even if we only had that, I just felt the high that we're on, the crest of the wave, we'd have been jamming. Sadly, it wasn't the case, and we now go into a earlier winter break than what was meant to be on a bit of a dull moment. And I think that's really sad because the trajectory the club was on, the team, not necessarily the club, but the team was on, was really, it was full of hope and optimism up until last night. So, yeah, I'm a wee bit deflated. That's the word.
I think as well, you're right to bring up the point, Russell, about the League Cup win. And we touched upon this in the last podcast when we had Andrew on from that Mental Ginger show. And he alluded to the fact it could be a flat line, a banana skin. And it turned out to be that way, William. And Russell talks about the love in hands and you can't criticise him. The cloak thing, the invisible cloak. See, I can't say that.
Invincibility cloak.
Invincibility cloak. Shambles. Shut up, right? But here, but this is the point where I'm coming across to yourself. And can you see why people are reacting this way? Because you're a big Ants fan. We all are in the podcast. Everyone else is. But we have dropped crucial points in a title race where, to be honest, there's no room for error.
Yeah, no, I like what Russell's saying there. I'm totally in agreement with it. Like a game in isolation, I'm all for critique and when it, like, freedom of speech. That's what it's all about. We're all here. We've all got opinions. We're all here to debate. What I can't stand is what I've seen on social media all last night, and it's that the league's done and that's it. The league's over now that we've dropped points there. It's just absolute ridiculous. I'm like everybody else, was very frustrated last night. I thought like the team performed well, but it's just that being clinical in front of goal again. Similar for me to the Livingston game earlier on in the season. It's a team that sat with 10 men in their own box pretty much. And when we're talking about personnel, obviously afterwards Andrew said now that these guys weren't available to him. But I said to you guys last night in the group chat, I'm not so sure. Well, I'm not going to say Kyogo wouldn't have made a difference, but that team sat on the 6-yard line, and you're not going to get a man in behind in that, because that's Abada's game as well. Even though he's not a striker, he wants to get in behind, and I feel for Abada because he's taking a bit of pace there. He's still a young boy. He's getting played out of position, and he's 5'0", and we're getting the ball wide and pinging balls in at 6 foot height. I mean, what's the boy going to have to do with that? You know what I mean? So I think it's a matter of their defensive unit played a 10 out of 10. We were a bit of 7 or 8 out of 10. These games happen. We're not going to win every single game. It's a bit deflating, like Russell said, after the League Cup win. It was very frustrating to watch, but there's millions and millions of points still left on offer. So I'm still full of positivity. It's Christmas time. The league's not over. It's only just begun. And I know what Russell's saying, but if we do look at the start of the season, if you told me after that nonsense that happened in the summer that by Christmas we would be 6 points behind with a game at Parkhead against them in a couple of weeks and a League Cup win, I'm not so sure I would have not taken it.
Seen someone tilting his head there in a wee bit, Russell, but I'll come to you in a wee minute. But Ross, in terms of obviously St Mirren's team, they did have COVID issues. I think they started 3 academy boys on the bench, no first team appearances between them apart from the goalkeeper. And Celtic went into the game. Yes, we're missing key players. Kyogo, Joe Hart didn't start. Jada, the obvious players who are injured at the moment. But surely to God, we have enough to beat a St Mirren team ravaged by COVID issues.
Well, evidently not. But I mean, the game itself, I think Celtic did break the lines at times, and they did create chances. I think there was a St Mirren team who was totally depleted, were sort of galvanised by that, and they defended for their lives. They defended really well, but I think we probably made more chances in last night's game compared to the one when we dropped points against Livingston. Better chances. So it wasn't like we didn't find a way to break them down. We sort of broke the defensive line down at times, but couldn't supply the finishing touch, the better finish, because we've not got the out-and-out striker there. So I think that's sort of what undone us last night. I don't think we played terribly in the match, but we sort of ran out of ideas towards the end. You could see it started going side to side, backwards, lumping balls into the box. And they started to do that at Ross County as well, I felt. And they got away with one at Ross County because in the end, one of the crosses Ralston got in the end. They didn't last night. And basically that's sort of the only difference for the Ross County game, in my opinion. I know we got 2 goals that night, but it was a similar type of game. And basically that's what happened last night. I don't think, like Willie's saying, I think the reaction is some quarters of the fans that the league is over and all the rest of it. I said in a previous podcast that draws are no good enough for Celtic, and I still stand by that. But when you look at it, Celtic they're now 6 points behind Rangers. They would, if they'd won last night, it would have been 4. They still need to win. You're looking at, they would still need to probably win 2 of the games against Rangers, which would then 6 points, 4 points. It still puts us in the same position because I think we've got a better goal difference at the moment. So it's no good drawing last night, but it doesn't put us in any worse a position at the moment. But there is absolutely no margin for error now, and we absolutely have to beat them. A draw is no good enough. We have to beat them on the 2nd of February.
But again, that's all about keeping our results up, isn't it? Keeping the wins going for us. We can't afford literally no more drop points up until we play them again. We know we said that previously, but it's happened now, and it's even more clear that we can't drop anything. Go ahead.
The thing is as well, like I'm saying, last night we broke the lines and stuff. But at the moment, I think certain games like last night, Celtic are sometimes no finding a way to win them. Whereas whether it be with help with the refs or finding a way on their own, Rangers seem to know how to do it in they type of games. That's what Celtic used to be like before last season's debacle, and I think we're just trying to get up to that level again, and we've not quite got the quality in the squad just to take us to that next level and just like win games like last night.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. I can see Russell at the bottom of the screen. He's chomping at the bit to get back in that fantastic shirt of his.
No.
But Williams did say that at the start of the season, if he had 6 points behind Rangers in a League Cup victory, he would take it. And I've seen you kind of shaking your head at us, making a wee expression. What would you say to that at the start of the season?
I just think that's an unacceptable level to be chasing. It's not in a bad way. Whilst I understand Williams' sentiment on it, for me, no. I still think we dwarfed I don't think they spent one penny in the summer. I think it was all free transfers. We did still invest in the squad. I think what's important to remember as well is this was a winning team. This was a winning team. I think I've tried to think of what the record was, but it's an outrageous amount of games that we'd not drop points other than Livingston. Like, that was one game out of the last 18, 19, I think it was, in the league. Something like that. But we were I just felt like, into a winning mentality where we were actually winning games of late, very unlike how we've seen Celtic winning games at the start of the season. There seemed to be a bit of a shift where Andrew's being, I don't know, a bit more streetwise, or maybe adapting to the league more, or whatever it was. We won a lot of games by the odd goal, by hook or by crook maybe, but the sign of, you would always say, you'd look back at it going, champions, the sign that, that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And I felt, when you talk about 6 points behind, I think it's very important what you mentioned there about Rangers. Sevco, delete where appropriate. Don't really like getting into all that stuff. But they're winning games right now at a rate. We have to take that seriously. We can't keep going, I would take 4 points, I would take 6 points. What is it going to be next? Come March. We're still in there, though. It's still mathematically possible. I don't want that to become the narrative. I think Celtic, to be honest with you, missed a real opportunity against St Mirren. I just think the momentum, with the pendulum, there's a pendulum in Glasgow, or Scottish football, if you like, particularly if you support one of the Glasgow sides. And I felt it was kind of coming back, it was getting more shades of green on it. And what actually happened was the League Cup swung it our way. You capitalise. And I don't buy into the excuses. For me, it was just a poor performance. And whilst there was, and I agree with the point that was made, there was more clear-cut chance. I was at that Livingston game. It was dross, right? Utter shite. And the penalty was so fortunate to occur. Obviously, we went and missed it anyway. But last night, the weirdest thing is about even the chances created. If I'm being honest, I never felt that we were going to score.
Yeah,
it's hard to explain. And it did feel in a weird way that teaming planning is not working. Don't just keep doing planning. Sometimes, and I over the months, the years of whatever I've spoke shite about Celtic for, like I've always said, the SPFL is a mad league. It's different. It's a different gravy. It's not, the matches don't play out the same way as they do with brilliant tactics in other leagues. Like if Postecoglou goes to England with one of the best resource teams and installs his style of play, they'll probably do pretty well. But he will be able to, continually through the 90 minutes play his philosophy. Whereas last night, he needs to at times jack the philosophy, go against the grain, and do something ugly. And I know people think that's not forward-thinking football. That's not how you progress as a club. At the same time, points make prizes. And if you want to progress as a club, you need to be top of the league come the end of the season and win £40 million. In the meantime, and I've used this description quite often about December. It was all about muddling and stumbling our way through it and picking up maximum points, no matter how. And I felt last night, if it took, I mean, I'm not a manager, right? So I'm not got all the answers. But when you see plan A getting done the whole way to the end, you go, well, could you have done something different? Could it have been lumping a centre back up front and putting some more direct balls in the box, hoping for, some sort of melee in the goalkeeper's area and a lucky shot? Like, these things sound so simple, and I'm not trying to I get, the job he's got. But I also think when a plan's not working, you have to address it as well. You have to make some sort of change. And the another phrase that I coin quite often is my brother who came up with it. Play the fixture. I don't think Celtic, quite as proved last night, in fact, they're not quite yet playing the fixture. They're playing a philosophy. They're playing Angie's philosophy. And a lot of the time it's brilliant to watch. I'm all on board with it. Other times where you need to go, 80 minutes gone, crucial match, play the fixture. What could we do to change this? So that I was just a bit disappointed with the result.
Well, you've brought me on to the next topic quite nicely there, Russell, so I do thank you for that. But, I mean, William, to be fair, Russell makes a point. We all love Vans and his philosophy, his style of play. We all can see it. We can see it in the pitch, even with the younger guys, academy players coming through. But from what I was seeing last night, the cross balls for me were wasted. Set pieces were wasted. And especially towards the end of the game, you had the likes of Liam Shaw on the pitch, Ralston. Surely you could have swapped one of them around to go up top, help out a battle, win on the flick on. It's a bit like big striker, wee striker, Scott McDonald, Fennegar Hasling type thing. Do you think it's a case of, I know people are saying Ans doesn't have a plan B, but do you think it's a case of this philosophy is what he wants to stick to, or is he just being stubborn in that way? Because I think like Russell, I would have changed something. By all means, I'm not telling Ans what to do. Managing Celtic Football Club, he has a tough enough job as it is, William. But you could see that game was just going to shit. Really, the cross balls, Shaughnessy and Fraser, their centre backs were clearing them up all day, and surely something had to change in that.
I think so. I don't think Andrew's going to change his style.
Well,
the way he is and the man he is, I don't think he's obviously dead set in his philosophy. But I do totally take on and I agree with what you're saying. I think Turnbull's been getting a lot of stick recently, but I like Turnbull in the team because he does take a pot shot now and then. And I think last night we could have done with that. There's times when we were going left to right to left, and I'm thinking McGregor, Rogic, just fucking take a shot. Especially what Russell's saying, all the bodies in the box, you never know, could knock in off somebody. It's a bit similar to Lennon last year, actually, at the end of his tenure. It was just this left, down to the left, down to the right, trying to get balls in the box, and we just weren't getting anywhere. Ross is right. I think we were a bit of smash and grab against Ross County, and it was the same. Otherwise, we wouldn't have. But saying that, against Ross County, I thought we were going to score. Whereas last night, like Russell was saying, it just wasn't happening. I was like, it's just not. We're not going to get a goal here. And like I said, I feel for a bad adder. I mean, he's getting slated left, right, and centre on social media. And I don't understand what he's meant to do. And people are just firing balls in at him. And he's 5'0". He's not a striker. I agree. I'd like to have seen a few more pot shots on goal. I never really thought about it, but Ralston's been a bit deadly in front of goal in the air. He's a big, strong lad. You could have maybe stuck him in there. I mean, the squad is depleted. Last night, the subs he's making what was it, Taylor for?
Yeah, that was strange.
Shaw for, you know what I mean? It's just like for like, and there's nothing. So, yeah, it was just one of those nights. It wasn't going to happen. But I agree. I think there is times where you need to change it up and grind out the results, which, like Russell's alluded to, we have been recently. 1-0 wins and last-minute goals at Ross County, and it has been happening. But, yeah, there can't be much more of what happened last night, unfortunately. But again, to be fair, see the cup final, Kyogo's the difference in it as well. I don't think we created an awful lot in that game, thinking back now. It's just 2 moments of magic for Rogic, Kalmak, and Kyogo's just... Both goals were just him being a magician. We never really carved them open. If anything, we probably probably created more in the game last night, but we just not got that killer, that clinical
Right.
finish at the end of it. January's massive.
Yeah.
We need to get guys in January, because we need to have, when these guys are out, we need to have somebody else to come in. It's just a shame that the guy that like say Giacomakis and Ayeti aren't fit, because I think, like I've said in previous podcasts, I think Big Giacomakis could be, with the style of play that Ange plays, him in the box, I think he could score goals. So it's a shame that he's injured at the moment, unfortunately.
Like half the squad, William, on the treatment table. The physios definitely kept busy, Tim Williamson. But Ross, it is crazy. We're just off the back of a fantastic win League Cup final. We've come into this damp squid against St Mirren. And is it a real reaction? Me personally, I don't think so, because I think that's the importance of the league this season. There's a £40 million jackpot right there at the end of it. Champions League football is guaranteed. The revenue coming in from gate receipts, that type of thing, could set something up for a long, long time in terms of financial health. And for me, games like last night is crucial, because we'll probably total up these points at the end of the season, and games like tonight are vital. And for me, as the guys were saying, you could have stuck Ralston up, Shaw, Beaton even at certain points, break him into the box, trying to get his head on things. It was just missing that killer instinct of it, just someone to take the game by the grass of the neck, wasn't it?
Aye, it was. I mean, I totally agree with the guys. I never really thought about it in the midst of the game, but you could have pushed the defender up and it might have changed it. But I just think Ange, like we've alluded to, totally believes in his ability, believes in his philosophy, and he's just not going to step away from that for nobody. I agree with what you are saying, but I sort of agree with Ange as well in sticking by it, because if he keeps pushing it and they keep doing it and they keep doing it, and then he gets more quality in the next window, and he keeps pushing that, like they keep following that same way, they're going to like get even better at it and keep learning it, and it'll be totally ingrained, and it's going to, you can see it's coming good, and it'll just click all the time. And games like last night, I think, with better quality added to the squad, plus the guys that are going to come back for injuries, because we are absolutely depleted at the minute. I just think if he keeps sticking to his principles, it will come good. Not all the time, but you're never going to win every single game. And I don't think, it's a thing I'm sort of holding on to as well, as Rangers are not going to win every single game between now and the end of the season. So all is not lost. It's a big task, and you would rather be top of the league as chasing. But I mean, I think we play Hibs. Well, we play in Boxing Day. Is that right? That game's going ahead, eh?
St Johnstone,
right. So if we go and win that game, right, you expect Rangers to win at Ibrox against St Mirren, right? But then the next game is obviously after the break, which is at home to Hibs, right? So you go and look to win that game, right? So that puts us 3 points behind Rangers, and they don't play it the next day. They've got to go to Pittodrie the next day. That's pressure, 3 points. And if they go and win that game, then you've got to hold your hands up and say fair play. Rangers are doing everything they need to do at the minute, but let's just try and put them under as much pressure, because they've this Rangers team have no been put under pressure yet. They've not been asked a question, and we need to start asking questions instead of doing things like we did last night. And the first opportunity asking a question is beat Hibs after we hopefully beat St Johnstone, and then let's see what they've got going up to Pittodrie, a team that they've already dropped points to. That's the first opportunity we've got to put them under pressure, and we have to do it. And then after that, whether they win, lose or draw at Pittodrie, the next game and the next question we have to ask is at Parkhead. That's all we can do. We have to keep asking questions at Rangers, and if they answer them, fair play. If they don't, then we're in with a shout.
I think sometimes, see, just with like, it's going to sound like I'm bashing Ange a bit, but it's not, because I'm all for his philosophy, and you know me, I've got pillows with his face on it to cuddle me at night and all the rest of it, because I love him that much. But I think sometimes, like Russell's saying about playing the fixture, we're a depleted squad, so I think you need to look at what you've got as well. It's all well and good you want to play your philosophy, but like in previous games, Adam Montgomery's never a left winger. He can't do what Jota does, so he can't play. Like he's not going to play the same role. It's not going to work the same. Abada's never a striker, like, and so on and so forth. So I do understand what everybody's saying, and I do think like you obviously do need a plan B. I mean, if you flip it round, like I said, it's a lot like Lennon last year. He had this plan A, and it never ever worked, but he never ever changed it, never went elsewhere. Now I'm not saying that that's where Andrew's gone, because I don't think it is. I think he's a fantastic coach, and he's got all the qualities, and the philosophy is, I mean, some of the football we played this year is some of the best I've ever seen at Celtic Park. It's breathtaking to watch. But I think sometimes with the clientele you've got, you need to try and maybe shuffle it about a bit, because especially in that game last night, they had every man in their box. I've never seen anything like it. Every man in their own box. Both their centre-halves, the last 10 minutes, were like 25 yards for their goal, taking the ball, passing it right and left. Like, chuck one of them in there. Why are they two sitting back? Sit with one back. And so, yeah, I totally agree with that. There needs to be there should have been some sort of, but, I mean, if Ralston leaps like a salmon and scores in the last minute again, we're sitting having a different conversation here, aren't we? So,
aye, we're talking about how the philosophy worked.
Aye.
But I mean, I'm not disagreeing and saying, like, I agree with you guys and putting, like, thinking out the box, going away for the philosophy, sticking somebody up there to change it up a bit, ask another question. But I just don't believe Ange's going to do that.
Nah. I mean, that's fair enough. It's obviously different variations of the game that you can see happening. Maybe a change you would make. And play the fixture. One manager I thought done that actually quite well, might be controversial, was Gordon Strachan. Especially in Europe, I thought he played the fixture really well in terms of the lineups and all he put out. So sometimes there is ways of winning a game and seeing a game out, and Ange can maybe take advantage of that. I'm not advocating that he changes philosophy. He goes to a 4-4-2, big man, small man up front. Nothing at all like that. Maybe just the last 10 minutes of a game when you're struggling, just to try and get a win. That's what we at Celtic Football Club need.
And the thing is with that fixture last night as well, like I said, like, I know there was a couple of moments in the break, but there were never ever. Our goal was never ever in danger. Doesn't matter if it was Scott Bain or Barcastle goal. We were never conceding. But
don't know, like
you could have, for example, last night you could have stuck Big Welsh in there with Abada and played the same philosophy. Got it wide, got the balls in the box. You could have played the same philosophy. The only difference is you're only sitting with one centre half standing 30 yards out rather than two. So, I mean, you don't need to change up the philosophy either. You can just change up the formation if you like.
But then see if he does that. See if he puts Welsh up there and then they hit us in the break and we've got one defender back. He's slated for what you putting fucking Welsh up front for, know what I mean? And leaving us susceptible to the counter attack. So he's in between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, fair enough. But right, wide men. We were speaking about Johnston there, Russell, and is he a scapegoat or is he deserving the criticism? I've seen a lot of it online. Me, myself, I think his time's run out at Celtic. I think he should be put out on loan to see if he can make it like a Ryan Christie did. Come back, bulk up a bit, and maybe he can find his chance that way. Otherwise, if this is the way it's going to keep going for him, I think he should be out the door. Personally, for me, I don't think he offers much. Yes, sometimes he comes off with the odd bit of brilliance, but that's very, very rare. Last night, he took on his man a few times. He had that shot in the first 5 minutes. He took on the man at the left-hand side and he cut in and he shot at the keeper, went straight to the keeper. But what do you think of this kind of Johnson thing going on online? I know some of the things I have seen have been quite foul, to be honest, and kind of directed to him, things of insults and all that. That's not nice. But in terms of the player focusing on the footballer himself, I personally don't think he should be at Celtic Football Club.
I think it's a wee bit too far, if I'm honest. I just... When was the last time you seen Mikey Johnston fully fit for the run of games? This isn't a run of games he's in right now. It's not a run of games. How many starts has he had in the last month? 2. Something like that. You know, his injuries haven't helped him. The Lennon incident getting told to F off didn't help him because he actually became a scapegoat and all that. And I see actually parallels with how the Celtic fans used to treat James Forrest 8-9 years ago. One of your own, easy target, looks greedy, rabbit in the headlights, all these sort of terms. I mean, if we're pinning last night on Mikey Johnston, then I'm sorry, but I find that a wee bit desperate, if I'm honest. I don't think that was on. In fact, yes, he makes mistakes, and he does. I felt last night, for the second match in a row I've watched him, the first half, he was trying to take responsibility. He was trying, and maybe he's got ideas above his head. Maybe he thinks he's better than what he is. But we're holding him to account on that so bad, where they flip it, and you look at it, and you go, do you know what? How come no one grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck last night? How come no one tried something unique? I think Mikey Johnston's right now the whipping boy of Celtic. And I think the narrative is a bit, I think it's actually really deflating when I think about when you consider any criticism of the manager, it's all deflected on the bigger picture. Well, can we look at the bigger picture of Mikey Johnston? 89 appearances, he's made for Celtic in 4.5 years. Hey, didn't expect me to have that stat. But hey, I'm not a stat Joe. I just randomly checked it last night. But 89 appearances in 4.5 years. Tell me that's a guy, who's fit a lot. Don't
but again, Russell,
look at
does that not kind of injury issues, injury prone to me? Does not need to go out on loan, get a bit more experience at a different club, try something new, and see if it works for him? Because it's not working for him at Celtic at the moment.
Well, I think the loan option's very, very valid. But I think come January it'll be very interesting to see how our board, who are, still promoting from within right now, as we speak today, Matt Nicholson or Michael, whatever his name, Jack Nicholson, he may as well be called. You know what I mean? Because he's a joker. And that is the thing. These idiots get these positions of power because they're promoted from within, right? So when people think change is happening at Celtic, they're basing it all on one guy, Ange Postecoglou.
Yep.
Trust me, come January, maybe the reason the media has been fed the stories about the 3 Japanese boys are because they're done deals. Because Celtic tend to leak their stories to the tabloids, in case you haven't noticed. Celtic, That's how we found out about a lot of big stories in the last 12 months, was through the tabloids. So maybe those 3 are done and dusted. Why are we all hanging our hat that they're then going to further back him in the rest of January when they've not done that for over a decade? It's quite a scary thought. Now, Mikey Johnston, you want to chase them out the door? Well, hang on a minute. There better be the 3 guys from the J-League identified and signed, and there better be another 3 or 4 in before I consider remotely loaning, selling anyone else. And I do agree with the concept of loaning out Johnston in theory, because I think he could do a Ryan Christie. Ryan Christie was 23 and a half, I think he was, when he came back. Sounds like a toddler. When you were young at primary school, you'd say you were like 9 and a half. Like, where's the half come from? I don't know why I said that. But Ryan Christie came back a man. He came back a man. He had bulked up and he'd been top dog in his side. And that gave him the kahunas, like with the cojones. When he came into the team, he grabbed his opportunity because his confidence was back. And he'd probably done a bit of tough love. He didn't expect when he signed for Celtic to be out on loan at Aberdeen. He probably thought it was the dream. Mikey Johnston might be right now thinking, I'm living the dream. Maybe a loan move to any other top flight club. Top flight only though, by the way. Has to be a top flight club.
Mm-hmm.
Might do him justice. But until we find out where we stand come the end of January, Mikey Johnston goes fucking nowhere for me. Like, he can be the whipping boy all he wants, but as we all know, the reason he is getting compared to Jota right now is because he's the only option to Jota. So until that squad depth increases, and this, to think about it on a bigger scale, is the excuses we're given for every shite performance. We've not got squad depth. So until Ange has that squad depth, we can then maybe look at Johnston perhaps doing a loan move. But I don't personally feel that he is performing to the level he's capable of. I also don't believe he is performing as badly as is made out. I think he's trying things, they're not coming off. I think there's a bit of what is it, a boxer says it, ring rust, they call it. I think there is a bit of that. And I think right now it's time to back off Johnston. We didn't lose against St Mirren, but if you read Twitter last night, you'd have thought Mikey Johnston cost us 3 points at St Mirren. And that, to me, is far removed from the truth.
And don't get me wrong, Russell, I understand where you're coming from, but for me, the bigger picture, as you said, he's not reliable, he's injury prone, he gets to run the team, he gets injured, he's out for another 6 weeks, 12 weeks, comes back again, he looks decent, and he just breaks down again. That's why I suggested maybe a low move, bulk him up, much like Derek McInnes did for Ryan Christie. He worked wonders on him, Ross, and I know yourself, you're not a big fan of Mikey Johnston, but in terms of what you've seen recently, I know my stance on it may be a bit, I know William's laughing because he thinks he knows what's coming here. I mean, my stance may be a bit hardcore saying he shouldn't be at Celtic Football Club, but that's just based on the years he's been there. I've seen brilliant things from him. I've seen him score absolute wonder goals, cutting them from the left-hand side, but it's just not regular enough, and Celtic need players they can depend on, and unfortunately for me, Johnston isn't quite that.
But we don't have anyone else though, Stephen. Sorry to jump in, but right at this moment in time, like who are we playing then? Tell me, like as you said earlier, Adam Montgomery left wing is a disaster or something like that. Is it? Well, William said that. But Adam Montgomery left wing doesn't work.
No, he's no.
So we have to make a mind up. Eventually, you go right. He's not the ideal option, but until I see a squad assembled that is viable candidates, we can't be chasing a guy out the door. It's like let's get the process right here. We get players in, we recruit, because the squad, we've been told all season, any shite result, we've been told it's because Andrews, he's so limited with the squad. Fair enough, I agree with it to an extent. But also, you can't then say, let's chase out someone like Mikey Johnston, who Ange Postecoglou is picking on a regular basis right now, and clearly, to an extent, likes what you're seeing off him.
Stephen,
jump in. Give me your two-piece worth.
Stephen, go and let me ask you a question quickly, right? Because I've not been a big Mikey Johnston basher. I don't think he has been. He's obviously not in a great run of form. But in the lead up to the cup final, we played Ross County. Montgomery was left wing, and we sat in a podcast, and I was like talking about the weekend and saying I hopefully we have players back for the cup final, right? So see when you've seen that Mikey Johnston was playing left wing in the cup final, were you happy about that? Or did you think, I'd have rather had Montgomery in there?
That's not really a thing for me. I think Johnston's he's the obvious left winger within the squad. So I mean, Russell's right. What he says, he's the only option in terms of Jada. But the way I look at it, it might be a simple narrow-minded point of view. I just don't think he's done enough to earn or warrant to stay at Celtic. And I'm not on the bandwagon of saying he's absolutely rubbish or shite or he shouldn't play football or pull on the hoops again, but he needs to pull the finger out of his arse, and that's my honest opinion. And I'll come to you, Ross, because you can speak in this too and kind of maybe back me up. We'll never know. But what's your kind of thoughts on this?
Well, I've said it previously that Mikey Johnston has shown glimpses, and we can see that there is talent there. He can skin guys. No, right now, not as and when he wants, but in the past, he's put guys in their arse, he's made them look silly. But right now, at this moment in time, for whatever reason, Mikey Johnston isn't doing it in a Celtic top. And at this moment in time, for me, he doesn't look good enough to be a Celtic player. But not for 1 second, and I fully agree, not for 1 second am I saying, like I think a loan spell probably would do him good, but not for 1 second am I saying do it at the start of January before we know who we're getting in, because that would just be madness, absolute madness. We're relying on him now, albeit he's not putting in the performances. But I think for previous podcasts a number of weeks ago, he was like really, really poor. Each performance, I think you can see him getting slightly better again. I think he had a good performance. I can't mind what game it was now. It was the other week. I don't know if it was Ross County. I can't mind. But he was all right in glimpses. And then last night again, I don't think he was all that bad. He wasn't any worse than anybody else on the park last night. And again, I thought he showed glimpses, like you alluded to, that one we cut inside. He beat 3 guys and he had a shot. It wasn't the best shot. But he tried to do something different at that moment. So I'm no bashing Mikey Johnston. He's no doing it in a Celtic jersey right now, and I think a loan spell would be great for him. But like we need reinforcements before. I fully agree with Russell on that. We need reinforcements before we put guys like him that we're fully relying on right now out on loan.
Yeah, I mean, again, play against one there, guys. So thanks for that, Ross. You
No,
changed your tune.
No, I never changed my tune. I still don't think he's good enough right at this moment in time. His performances, he's not good enough. He doesn't look like a Celtic player. But in his defence, with each performance, with each appearance, his performances are getting better slightly each time. So that's all I can really say in the guy.
Ross, we can't have it both ways, can we? We can't say Ange Postecoglou's got one hand tied behind his back because of squad shortages, because of injuries, and because it's not his fault about the transfer window, yada yada, and then go at the same time, a guy's regularly picking, we're going to chase at the door come January. It doesn't add up. It's just nonsense. And right now what you're watching is a guy becoming a whipping boy. And I'll tell you one of the biggest reasons behind it is because no one right now wants to say the manager does anything wrong, right?
I can't.
I am not.
I would.
Do you know where I'm coming from, though, right? If you look across the board, like,
I know.
Maybe this might be a majority on a podcast, but trust me, it's not the manager. For me, has done 90% of things right. He gets 10% wrong. You say the 10% wrong, you're an anti-Ange guy, you are completely not looking at the bigger picture, yada yada. And if that's the case, fine. Mikey Johnston, who's looking at the bigger picture of his Celtic career so far? And where he's at right now?
Just done it.
I know. No, I know. It's not even to you, mate.
No, I know.
Do you understand? It's like, you look at Mikey Johnston. Imagine if Mikey Johnston was offered the Ange cloak, and going, do you know what, Mikey? You've had a tough time. Your situation's been unparalleled. Your career for your age has been ridiculous. You were abused by a manager live on camera. You were then out for another 12 months. You're only you're 23. You've been involved in the squad for 4.5 years. How unfair is it that you made your first ever Old Firm derby game, or Glasgow derby, at Ibrox up front, sold up the Swanee? We could all look at those factors and say, do you know what? He's been dealt an unfair hand. But you're not allowed to say about Mikey Johnston. But Ange Postecoglou fucks up the other night. He does. He messes up. He didn't get it right. He lost points, vital points in the league. And yet he's always got an unfair hand in the bigger picture. Mikey Johnston, honestly, I just don't think he gets a fair crack of the whip. And I think it's actually a wee bit depressing because Celtic supporters like to kid on, and myself included, that we want to promote from within. I would love to see, guys come from within. But they're the quickest to be caned. James Forrest being honestly such a strong example, I feel, to mirror where Mikey Johnston was, 8-9 years ago. And I'm guilty of it, by the way. Don't think I'm saying this all aloof. I think James
Maloney
McGeady got Maloney the team because
you look at it, McGeady was especially. That's a brilliant point, McGeady. And I think James Forrest, I look back at it now and I go, what was it I seen a stat? He's on 99 goals and 98 assists or something in a Celtic shirt. And that's a guy that really only started getting our respect once Brendan Rodgers managed him. But he was doing plenty before then. I just think, I don't want us to get too quick to jump on a bandwagon when we're not willing to do the same for others who underperform, whether that be within the team or the manager.
Yeah, I get you're all saying. I mean, that Mikey Johnston triggered you all. Fantastic to watch, boys. But we were talking about squad depth, William, and that's a key area in January needs addressed. But squad depth, what is it for Celtic? Is it signing these 3 Japanese players plus the possibility of getting John on the permanent deal that with all that is going to happen? and then letting free French players go? Or is it the case of bringing in free and shutting up shop and not letting any players go? Because I firmly believe what Russell said. I don't think after these Japanese boys, unless a loan move becomes available for an English guy who's out of favour, nothing else will happen during the window.
Yep.
So it's a bit concerning when you look at it, William. If we sign these free players and with the possibility of Yetting out the door, Barkas, them types of players, it just leaves us in the same position, doesn't it?
Yeah. And we touched on it on our pod when I think it was the day after the transfer window, actually, and on the last day we had Edward and Christie go, didn't we? And we brought the guys in, and I said at the time, well, it's not even about like two top players gone. It's about all we've done is replace two, and we were already short.
But they were two guys that didn't want to be at the club, and
no, totally not.
We got rid of that. That was a negative thing for the squad.
Definitely needed them to go, but for me, we needed two more in. Then it's not. It shouldn't be about replacing players that leave. It should be about adding to the squad, and that's what we need to do in January. By the way, I do think there are a couple of French players that we could let go. I think there's players stealing a wage in this team. To be honest with you, I still don't understand the McCarthy deal.
No.
I don't know what he's brought to the team so far. It's a shame because he obviously is a player, but we're not seeing it. We've not seen any of it, and he's still not playing for whatever reason. He's obviously injured again. But we definitely need to add to the squad and not lose. I think tying up Jota's massive. I think that's obviously number one on our list. But yeah, we need to add to the squad and not lose any first team players. Let's put it that way, or second team players.
B team,
because
C
because
team.
I like say, and this is going to. It sounds like I'm bashing Montgomery, but I mean, for me, Montgomery's a left back. He's never a left winger. He's getting shoehorned in again, getting a bit slated because of that. We're shoehorning players where they shouldn't be. Abada's another one.
For years.
I know. I feel so much for Abada because he's, again, like Mikey Johnston, he's getting it fucking left, right and centre. And I think there's a proper player there. He's just moved to this country. He's a young boy. And he's getting it absolutely slaughtered. So, yeah, we need to bulk up the squad. I mean it's plain and simple. Whether it is these three guys, and we do look at a couple viable loan options. I'm not a massive fan of the loan market. We fall in love with guys and then they're away again at the end of the year. But if it means we bulk up the squad, then I mean, so be it. As long as we're getting players in, because I mean, when you look at the first 11 last night in Ross County, you're thinking, geez, where's all our players? We're shoehorning left backs, left backs at left wing and wingers up front, and that it's not great, is it?
It'd be great if you could just remove hamstrings like appendixes, eh?
That'd be nice.
But I mean, Ross, William makes a great point. We do need to beef up the squad. Squad depth a fatal issue because we can't keep using the same excuse until the end of the season. Oh, we're short numbers here, short numbers there. At the end of the day, it's up to this questionable Celtic board to keep the players in until we bring maybe 5 or 6. But do you trust that to happen? Or do you think there's going to be players gone and it's a case of what we've done with Edward and Christie and just replace them?
Like first team players?
Aye, but you beef up the squad. Yeah.
I don't think, like, out of our strongest 11, I don't think we'll let anybody go in this next window. I can't see it. I just think it would be madness. It would be, for want of a better word, suicidal in this title race if we let any of our first team players go. I can't see that happening. I think it's the worst kept secret in the world. These 3 Japanese guys are going to come in, and whether they'll do more business on top of that later in the window, I don't know. But I think I'm not sure if they will do any more than that. It remains to be seen. But I think defensively we've got enough cover at the moment. Just if Julian comes back, it's even better. But we don't know when that'll be. We've got Scales and Taylor at left back. Juranovic can come in there. We've got Ralston and Juranovic at right back. So I think that can see us through. I'm not saying that that's who maybe in the summer who we might add to that again, but I think this window, we've alluded to it before, everybody's fully aware of it, that it's very hard to get deals done in the January window. Certainly when you're wanting to be bringing guys in that are going to make your first 11 better.
Yeah.
Not just, you might get a couple in that might bolster the squad, but I don't think on top of the 3 Japanese guys we'll get players that will make the first 11 better. As far as the midfield goes, I think we probably could do with another maybe centre midfielder in there, but I think again that possibly could be a deal that might get done in the summer, because the guy that we bring in there, I think would maybe, again, you would want it to maybe be a first 11 player. A striker, I think probably a Yeti might go in the next window. You don't know, but it depends. I think Celtic will probably want to get somebody in if he does go. So it depends if we can get someone, because you're not just want to bring in, get rid of a Yeti and just bring in another Yeti. You want to bring in quality. So it's you can't predict the future, but certainly I think the Japanese guys are going to come in and they're going to help us a lot, and add to what is already a squad fully pretty good players. Certainly the first 11, but we need to get that first 11 fit and playing. I can't mind, I've said it before, I can't mind the last time we went into a Rangers game and had a full quota of players available.
Yeah,
and
great point.
Like I don't think we've won, is it 7 games now we've not beat them?
Aye, something like 7 or 8.
Probably what, 4 of the games were in front of no fans. The other 3, including the 4 that I've mentioned, we didn't have a full squad, whether it be COVID, injuries. Rangers have been very lucky. They've always had a full squad. So as much as they've done well, and you can't take away what they achieved last season in the league, they've still, I'll go back to it, they've still not been asked a proper question. And we need to get into a game against them and get a run of games with a full quota of players, and it's just not happening for us now. We're just going through a spell, and we've said it, try and get to January unscathed. We've not done it. We've drew. It's a gutter, but it's I don't know.
But no, 100% get what you're saying, because I can see where you're coming from in terms of the injuries. I can't remember. I mean, we're playing Mikey Johnston up front at one point under Rodgers against Rangers, and it was just shambolic. But again, Mikey Johnston coming into the conversation, Russell. But you kind of come at me when I said that Johnston should be let go. But without the squad depth, you can't really consider it. I get where you're coming from. But what does squad depth look like for you? Because I'm much of the belief as William and Ross. You can't just let players go and replace them. We need to add on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, right now at the end of the day, we're 6 points behind our rivals for a £40 million jackpot. So if anyone thinks anyone in that first team is irreplaceable, they're far wrong. You build from strength. You don't get complacent. You don't think David Turnbull, Tom Rogic are the answer. You get better than them, and then you push. Hopefully, I would like, because I like both those players, to see them then engage in that competition and become better players as well. I always remember Bobby Petter, Celtic, right? Shite. Martin O'Neill turns him into this. He was just this unbelievable winger. And what did O'Neill do to Bobby Petter? Within 5 months of Bobby Petter feeling he's on cloud 9, brought in Alan Thompson. And he basically was saying, hey,
brilliant point.
Well done on getting in, by the way. And I think the reason I'm bringing this up is I think Ange has done that to a lot of players in the Celtic squad, that sort of Bobby Petter vibe, if you like. He's brought players like Ralston, for example. What did Ange do? Brought in Juranovic. Ralston's having the month of his life. In comes the Croatian international. Bobby Pettis having the season, like, the 3-4 months of his life. In comes Alan Thompson with 200 Premier League appearances at 27, 20 years old, oven ready, straight into the team. And that competition was based to try and get better out of Bobby. I mean, don't get me wrong, Tom will never give him a look in. But what I would like to think is the team right now, see once you're 6 points behind, you're far from the finished article. Not one of you aren't replaceable. Not one. If you keep that mindset, Celtic will progress as a football club. It's not about going into January. I love that. I know the Jota thing's a big one in January. For me, if there's an option to buy on the guy, which apparently him and Carter Vickers, there is an option to buy on both. We get first dibs. It'll then be basically down to the player if they want to join or not. So the Jota one's only important if you think, January he's feeling the love and he might go, do you know what, I'll sign. Or you hang off to the summer, use the funds otherwise, and give Ange more tools to win as a £40 million jackpot this year. And first and foremost, win the title back. It's great talking about the 40 million jackpot, but I want the trophy first. The 40 million is just this added thing.
Just a bonus.
It's huge though in football these days, the money side, and sadly Scottish football's getting left behind, so we have to factor it in. But here's how I would flip it. You imagine the guy that we all hold in a huge high esteem having won his title and with a 40 million and a full summer, full transfer window at his disposal. But then you could be in for exciting times. Just want to touch on the fact about the 3 J-League players. There's no danger that can be all we do. And it worries me that you're of the mindset, kind of that I am, that might be us thinking, that's us, we got our business done early. You always said we never did that before. And they think that's it. That Celtic team needs 5, 6, 7.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to be Ange Postecoglou signings, not Dermot Desmond signings.
But it's not easy to do that in January.
It's going to get interesting. Well, we know this. But the flip side is, if you actually watch Postecoglou's interviews, he seems very assured about the January transfer window. And the guy knows, I would like to think, that 3 players ain't going to cut this.
Uh-huh.
I think that he's acting assured. I think he's calling the bluff a wee bit, if I'm honest. I think the 3 players are, as you say, worst kept secret. It looks like they're all joining. But I think Ange is acting assured because he's basically going, imagine if I don't sign anyone else. And look how assured I was in the lead up to the window. He's calling the bluff a wee bit. And we need more than just the 3 for the J-League as far as I'm concerned. Big and just finally, the COVID rules that we all know are happening, that could have been us. We could have been St Mirren. We were St Mirren last season. This all could start happening again. The squad depth has to be greater than what it is right now.
I think that's what we're all quite in agreement, and I think, to be honest with you, I think that's pretty much one of the main reasons anyway that the Rangers did so well last season and this season. For me, they've got 3 players in each position.
Mm-hmm.
No,
they had it last year and this year, and it's not. And what Russell's saying, it's not. I don't think they're losing out in quality either. They've got 2 or 3 players in each position that are pushing for that first team, and that's the reason they won the league last year for me, and why they're in the position they're now. If they have the injuries we have, I don't think it affects them half as much as it's affected us.
Right, that's true. That's
I agree with that. They're up my arms about possibly not having Aribo. He's the only player that I think out of the 3 that Rangers will miss. Like, is it Balogun, Aribo, and is it Bassey?
Bassey.
Balogun and Bassey are no constant first 11s. Aribo will be a big miss for them, but they can replace him. They've got other players there. Arfield will come in and play against Hibs. Still do a job, know what I mean? He's not as good as Aribo, but he still do a job.
Oh, he's annoying him. He always
can he
stack him? But that's the thing. I mean, you were talking about there, Russell. You said Dermot Desmond signing. What we're saying today, William, was the jobs for the Boys Club was back open in full view. So it was, and Michael Nicholson was appointed permanent Celtic chief executive, as if we all didn't know that was going to happen. Yeah. But off the back of the result last night, Anthony put in our group chat does simply, again, with that famous quote, read the room, Celtic. And again, for me, they failed to read anything. The modernisation of the football club clearly isn't happening. You can see it from a mile off. Postecoglou's kind of took that on, all them roles on himself. We've seen in the statement that Chris Mackay, the financial director, has been appointed head of finances with other executive duties. So God knows what that means. But how do you feel about this? Well, because for me, again, it's Celtic fans being sold short.
So, I mean, it's just it's another one where it's just like acceptance. Like everybody, you knew it was coming. Another internal appointment. My sister's granny's uncle's goldfish's cousin that I know is fucking. I mean, he's been in interim charge for how long now? A number of months. Today was the first time I seen a picture of him. If he walked by me in the street, I wouldn't even know who he was. There's been no public in it. There's been nothing from him at all. Spent it in hiding. What can you say? It's just typical Celtic at that level, the hierarchy. It was always coming. Another yes man. Yes sir, no sir. 3 bags full, sir. I mean, there's not much more to say on that. To be honest, I don't know what to say. It's just typical disappointment.
From what I can tell, Russell, I mean, him and Peter Lawwell seem to have a close connection. And I've seen lots of people kind of saying Lawwell, that's his puppet. He runs him, so to speak. But you look at the guy, Michael Nicholson, and William said he's been a non-entity. He hasn't even come out with a statement like kind of
anonymous.
Anonymous, yeah, exactly. You may as well wear that wee mask. But looking at the appointment, we all knew was going to happen. Dominic Mackay came in. We were all happy about that. He seemed to have a forward thinking. Then it went wrong, pear-shaped. He's got a new job now, so fair play to him. But what's going on within board level? Because for me, again, it's just the lack of engagement with the fans. Even the Higgins thing, they didn't even come out and directly clarify that. That was leaked for the press yet again, as you said at the top of the show. Where do you stand on this whole Michael Nicholson thing?
I just think this is why I'm talking about the transfer window. I put up a GIF when Celtic appointed, today, the announcement or whatever. And I put up talking heads, the singer for talking heads, same as it ever was.
Yeah.
Same as it ever was. Right now, what they've done is they're cashing in on Postecoglou's loving for the fans. Postecoglou is guilty of his soundness. Postecoglou is guilty of uniting the support. That is his biggest flaws. Because we've all went, oh, this is amazing. And they're just back up to their dirty fucking tricks. As for Eddie Howe, I think the guy's a bedwetter. I think he listens to Keane. You know what I mean? Some of only we know and that shite. But I think the other thing I would say is I think Eddie Howe also looked at the board and was like, fuck this, I'll need a team behind me, an army behind me to have any sway here. Postecoglou's out his own. He's united the fans, and the rest of those absolute clowns with the biscuit tin around them are pissing themselves laughing. Now the thing is about the J League signings, I touched on this on the Bhoycie Bus. Subscribe. It was a joke. But basically, I just hope they're not smirking and thinking, if those 3 guys for the J League work, we look like this forward-thinking progressive club. Right? Who thought of these left field signings other than Glasgow Celtic? Where it's all Postecoglou, right? Yeah. See if they're all shite. It's all on Postecoglou.
Yeah.
And he will be hung out to dry. They'll say, we gave him all the tools he wanted. He wanted to utilise that league. And this is where it all gets a bit murky for me in terms of why is a guy being promoted from within when the club was willing to accept to a crazy level complete changes, turnarounds, overhauls to get Eddie Howe. Postecoglou doing well is going to fuck Celtic in the long term because they take it for granted and they want to keep the jobs for the boys and all that bullshit. And right now what you're seeing is they're doing it in such a way, even the timing of the announcement, it's all meant to be going under your radar. The Higgins thing they didn't even address. He fucking did. He sent out the tweet. Yeah. And that is, I owned the business for 6 years. Your customer base is the most important thing. If they're stomping their feet and raging it, a barmaid I've appointed, because she's, you know, I don't know, she was an arson in her previous life. You step up and listen. You either justify it, you keep her, or you sack her on the basis of, I'm going to lose these punters. You don't let the barmaid do the spiel. And you don't let them tell you what's going on. Oh, by the way, I'm not actually going to work at that pub anymore. And that, I just think that's hiding behind under rocks. It's just, it's naughty stuff going on right now. And I think Postecoglou's biggest crime will be uniting the fans and be such a success that it has been so far, because the board, when we get successful, take it for granted. Brendan Rodgers, 100 million turnover, 2 years in a row, 2 Champions Leagues in a row. We squabble over 250 grand for John McGinn. You wonder why the guy's talking about Terminado. He's like, fuck this. You know, like I want to actually make a fist of it in the Champions League, where you just hope and pray that we get there and bank the 30, 40 million. Those guys haven't changed. Disappointment doesn't change that mindset. It's promoting from within, and a club that's meant to be forward thinking with the appointment of Postecoglou, but really to me shines through that the appointment of Postecoglou was not by any of them, quite clearly a City Group appointment, and he actually goes against the grain of where Celtic are trying to take Celtic, and it's tragic.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Russell makes a great point. Something I actually never thought of in terms of Anne's doing well is kind of the board rubbing their hands because they don't really have the answer for anything. And you look at this whole Nicholson situation, Mackay leaving, that was brushed over with personal reasons. No one will probably ever know why. Nicholson comes in, and as Russell said, does invisible. No one knows anything about him. Barely addresses Celtic fans. And we're expected again to pump money into the club. Season ticket renewals will be coming up again soon for next season. And it's just, for me, the board, it needs an overhaul, but it just looks like it's never going to happen.
Aye. I mean, well, it's like you say, like, I'm not privy to what goes on in the boardroom and stuff, but they had a guy in there, Mackay, who, from the outside looking in, looked everything, certainly, that I wanted our next chief executive to be. He was forward thinking. He was trying to engage with the fans. He was involving us, and everything was looking good. It looked like he'd appointed. It was his choice to appoint Postecoglou, and then it just goes to shit because he's too forward thinking for the board. He's no a yes man, if you like, and then they get rid of him. How that came about, we'll never know. And then we get, like we've said, another guy in the position who has been there and is a yes man. A lot of quotation marks there, but I think they're needed. But and it's like you've said, Willie's seen his face today. I've yet to see his face. I don't.
I didn't recognise him if we walk by in the street. It's fucking ridiculous, man.
Nah, no.
But they said, did you see the he's been a season ticket holder for years, and he's got a pass. Oh, fucking brilliant.
That really that appeases me.
Then.
Aye, that's no. I'm not interested in that. Russell sounds
can't
gone.
Hear you. You can't.
It's like what they used to say. I put myself on mute because I give a heavy breather, and I'm like, that might sound bad in the pod. So I put myself on mute in between chat and shite. But it's like when they used to say, Kenny Miller, aye, but he works hard up front, eh? I fucking work hard. Doesn't mean I'm good enough to play for Celtic. You know, and this guy might have been a season ticket holder. Doesn't mean he's capable of being your CEO.
No.
And how come, if we've really cast the net, are you telling me that was the number one candidate out there? Is that a forward-thinking club? Or is that a club that's going, when they're hiding behind Ange, he's got the fans united, we'll get back to our old fucking dodgy tricks. I'm sorry for being so negative about it, because the team, I feel like I'm identifying with again. The manager, I feel I'm identifying with again, albeit I don't subscribe to him being immune from criticism, which others do. But the board are still there to be held account. The exact same way they were when we were 25 points behind the league.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let them fool you.
It's like
But
when it's like if you're
again-
it's like if you're down to like a car dealership and your sister had his boyfriend and was like, go and give him a job, da. He's like, all right, okay, we'll give him the manager's job. He's drove a car before and he's got a license, so that's all we need.
Aye, but it's like similar to the Neil Lennon appointment. It's just like, can't he be bothered? We brought that guy in on an interim basis. But by the way, once again, I'm no privy to what goes on in the boardroom. And the guy could do an amazing job. I highly doubt it. From the outside looking in, we all know what it looks like. But he could do an amazing job. He could be brilliant. He could be better than Mackay. We'll never know though, because Mackay never got to fulfil his potential.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, for the people watching, can you tell it's Christmas? We're all happy as hell in here, aren't we? But again, Celtic do face a tricky time, McDermott Park, William, on Sunday after Christmas. We'll try and wrap this up pretty quickly. So, pretty simple. 500 fans. These new restrictions have come into play. This is kind of the last game before the winter break that was brought forward. Do you think the 500 fans will have an effect on the team, or do you think they'll just get through this game? It can be a tricky one. St Johnstone, double winners, even though they're bottom of the league. They won 2 trophies last season, so it's not to be sniffed at going to McDermott Park.
No, we're obviously more capable of winning the game. They're not going great at the moment, but I would have said that last night at St Mirren, so anything can happen. I don't think they've got the capabilities to defend as a unit as St Mirren did or Livy did. I think we can break them down, hopefully. So I see it being a fairly comfortable win, but I've said that in the past and it's not went that way. You touched on that the change of the winter break, which I'm all for. I think it's probably the right thing to do in these times. But I know, like, I've seen that there's the Wednesday night that we've got the Derby game. It looks like there's internationals for Japan and Australia, so we might, and we cannot go into that game without Rogic and Kyogo. We just can't. I think I've read reports today that Japan have already picked their squad for it, and it's compiled just of players from the J League. I'm hoping that's true, because it means the wee man's here for the game. But Rogic, I've not seen any other reports. I mean, I seen Ange getting questioned about it after the game last night, and he's typical Ange fashion, said something on the line, say, there's plenty playing their violins around. We're not going to be one of them, mate. We'll just get on with it. If they get chosen, they get chosen. So, St Johnstone, comfortable. I'm worried about us missing players for this winter break, but I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. And Ross, what you said about the game?
Well, I fancy it'll be a comfortable win, and the reason why is because Ange alluded to in his pre-match press conference, the St Mirren game, that Kyogo, they would have to manage him through this period because he's not fully fit. I think he's probably thought, depleted St Mirren, this is a game we can rest him. Evidently, we didn't get away with it, but he probably thought, do I rest him against this depleted St Mirren, or do I rest him against a full-strength St Johnstone team? So, without hindsight,
that's a good point, actually.
He's probably made. He's made without hindsight, he's made the best decision for Kyogo and the team, and I think Kyogo will start against St Johnstone. And when Kyogo starts, we're a different animal altogether. And I think we go to the McDermott Park and we win fairly comfortably. I think, aye. With Kyogo and the team, we're a different team.
Do you think that if the news about the winter break came earlier, that Kyogo would have played?
Yeah,
against St Mirren?
Absolutely.
I agree.
And what you said, Russell, about the game McDermott Park?
Yeah, the 500 fans should have no effect at all. It'll be the busiest their stadium has been all season, so they can set the atmosphere should be electric, man, you know what I mean? I will smash them. They'll come back. I think if I believe everything, and I want to believe in everything that we read and we love about Ange, he'll have every piece in the chessboard arranged to ensure we beat St Johnstone quite comfortably. And I think it's a landmark sort of match in the sense that we're going to break up for 3 weeks now. You have to win. You have to leave on that high, create some doubt. And again, that's why I'm so upset about the St Mirren game. But if we look ahead to the St Johnstone one, leave before the break on a high, do some damage, start putting some feelers out there that, we get knocked down, we get up again, as Chumbawamba once famously sang.
Right. Quick score predictions, Russell. Go for it.
3-0.
William.
Celtic.
Yeah. William.
2-0.
Comfy 2-0. Ross.
Comfortable 2-0.
3-0.
3-0. I'll go 3-1. I think we're still leaking goals, so it's kind of one of them things that happens.
Oh, get off.
guys,
It was 0-0 the other night, man. Leaking goals.
Go over. We do still concede, right? That brings us to the end of the Christmas podcast. But before we go, the quiz is back, and I thought long and hard who it'll be between. So I'm going to go for Russell and William. Russell and William in the quiz tonight. Ross, you can
I actually forgot about this bit.
By the way, you've picked the worst two, because I would have beat the both of them, so that's fair enough.
I like that. I like this guy. That's the right attitude.
Yeah, man.
Ross can be my John Beaton, because my co-host John isn't available. So
I told you the last time you done this to me, I was John Anderson.
That's right.
Right, it's 5 questions, right? You all know the drill. First to free, that kind of thing. You ready?
Nope.
Ready? Yep. Question 1. What Celtic Academy player made his first start for Celtic against St Mirren? 1-0. 1-0. What
is it not
number did
Moffat?
That, no? No. Second question. Russell, you should know this. You listen to this podcast. Come on, man. Second question.
I thought I got a buzzer.
Second question. What number does Moffat have in the back of his jersey?
57? No, 73.
2-0, William.
Never, not even close.
Very observant, William.
Anthony Ralston, another Celtic Academy graduate, had 2 loan spells at which clubs?
Dundee United, St Johnstone.
St Johnstone. Well done.
2-1. Wow.
Do.
Liam Scales was signed from which Irish club?
Shamrock Rovers.
2 each. Oh!
Bring it on, Jack. Oh, you thought I was... Just when they thought I was out, they brought me right back in.
He's ready? Are you ready?
Yep.
What number does Stephen Welsh have in the back of his jersey?
52.
53.
No, one more guess each.
It's 52.
Huh?
It fucking is.
57.
3-2, Russell.
57. It's no. Get it checked. It's 52.
I have it in front of me.
57, man.
You're a
57.
Russell, what a comeback. What a comeback, man. I mean, I'm top of the leaderboard on the Bhoycie Bus, and you beat William in the quiz, so fair play.
Yes.
And obviously come to yourself.
That was like the comeback against Aberdeen when Big Sammy scored in the last minute.
That's it. I know, very good.
But Russell, come to yourself.
Game.
I mean, we all know now you've got a brand new show up and running. It's literally made waves on YouTube and every platform on social media. For the people who haven't seen it, just tell us a wee bit about it.
Bhoycie Bus. It's I just obviously fell out with the other pod, and you kind of know your worth in life, where you go, well, a lot of folk kind of liked your input on something that was getting 10,000 sort of views a day, so you think your own wee percentage that you've played in that, and if the guy wants to fall out with you and I want to fall out with him, that's fine, that's life. No sour grapes, that's it. But you don't just give up. So basically what I've created is just a Celtic pod that I'm kind of trying to do almost in a weird way like a phone-in show, but because the technology's moved on now, it's just live comments that come in as we do it. And what I've tried to do by the bus sort of concept is, if you're a passenger on the bus, you've got as big a say as anyone else. And we basically have it's an open forum. We do a Monday club. We do the odd like stream because folk like watching other people play games these days. So I thought because my actual audience, believe it or not, are all older than me, I thought a 20-year-old game like Championship Manager 0102, and we can sort of reminisce about, that era in 2000. That was a great era anyway, that Martin O'Neill team. So we do a bit of that. And then at the weekends, as you know, Stephen, we do a double Doon show, which, whilst we chew the fat over Celtic and all that stuff, we're also implementing a quiz. And again, just trying to, the way I see it is, what I learned from doing this podcasting game for the last year is the biggest winner is being yourself.
Yep.
Don't ever, and I think you guys are very much that. You know what I mean? I think that's that shines through in this. These are all, I'm not saying like you're the most explosive characters in the world or anything, but you're all real. These are very real. And I think that shines through. And I think that's a really good thing to have. And nothing I do right now will be filtered, faked. And at times, if I'm having a few cans of beer and I want to do a post-match, I'm not going to sit and be judged on that. It's absolutely my call. And you know what? I think you tell me one fan, if you were going to the game, they're still having a few beers on the bus there and the bus back. So it's been the Bhoycie Bus, as it's called. I hope it doesn't come over egotistical, because the actual concept is meant to be the bus is for everyone. Like, you're on the, like, okay, I might drive it, but really it's to have every passenger have an equal say. And we actually talk. The comments actually bring the show on the most, so I'm enjoying it massively. Once you get memed twice by a prominent Rangers Twitter page already, kind of felt a bit validated by that, you know. I was like, I've made it. But we're having a lot of fun along the way. It's a lot of power. But the Celtic chat is not on the level that it was tonight, if I'm honest. But I'm enjoying it massively. And if anyone wants to subscribe or whatever, it's called the Bhoycie Bus with an H after the B.
Perfect. And as I said to you previously, you were the first guest on our audio kind of podcast platform. Now you're on video with us, and we greatly appreciate it, obviously.
Well, it's good to see the evolution. Good to see it, sorry to interrupt, but it's good to see the evolution of what's happening in Endless Celts as well, because it's quite clear there's a, the path that you're on, you have grown steadily, but surely. You've seen it change from audio to visual. You've seen sponsorship getting added on. And if I'm honest, I've got to pull up William, because William, to me, night and day from the first show we did together. I just think there's confidence there growing. That's a good thing, but it's a complete compliment I'm trying to pay here. Right. And I think you grow. I worked to you on the first show. I nowhere, like, it's miles apart. And I'm saying that in the nicest possible way. I just think it's great to watch you as a host grow, Stephen. Obviously, all the contributors are all developing, and that's what happens with it. And enjoy the process, or keep faith in the process.
or as we're all saying this season, trust the process. And again, Russell, once again, thanks for coming on. We're glad your Bhoycie Bus pulled up at our stop. And to you, Ross and William, have you enjoyed this one?
Brilliant. First class debate tonight. I really loved it.
Superb, mate, as usual. I'd just like to read, as like Russell saying there, that a wee Merry Christmas to everyone. And our wee pod is, I think we're at 600 subscribers now on YouTube, and more listening elsewhere.
Hit the fucking button.
The fact that it's like, just if we started this in a lockdown and we all have it's like all the boys in the pub sitting talking about Celtic. We're just all daffy laddies, daft about our club, and the fact that people listening is just a bonus, and it's great with the comments we get and the stuff we get, and it's more than I'd ever imagined this would be. And so just superb. Merry Christmas. Cheers, troops.
Yeah,
I thought it would have died after I went on the first show, but
no.
So did I, mate. So did I.
I thought I'd have been it, but I'd just like to say Merry Christmas to everybody as well, and I hope they all have a good one.
Yep, and that's from everyone that in this. Endless Celts Podcast. We wish you all a Merry Christmas, a safe Christmas. Stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.